Hello, we seem to have some people now. Please sign in on the document, which I put in the Slack, but I'm not sure if you can see it if you just joined after I posted it. But and do we have any volunteers to scribe today? You feeling helpful? Thanks, Brendan. Thanks, Ash. Give everyone another minute to catch up. Okay, so stand up. Robert?
Hello, hello. Just as I noted in the Google Doc, just a shout out that we're doing a policy work group session today at 3 o'clock Pacific. And we're going to have a presentation by a project called K-Rail. I'm not intimately familiar with them, but all good things around policy management. Also, we'll be talking a bit more about some of the standardization discussions we've been having that Michael Ducey kicked off with his presentation around runtime policy interface. So anyone who wants to join or is interested in policy issues, that's at 3 o'clock today. And then just another reminder that on December 4th, I'm still hoping to have Radically Open Security present. So those who are interested in the assessment process and security review process, that should be a good session for that topic. That's it.
So the runtime policy discussion, could you just elaborate a little bit more, because I haven't managed to catch up with the meetings recently. What's the discussion been there?
So Michael had joined for a session. We didn't have critical mass attendance that particular session to have a formal presentation by Michael, but it's essentially his documentation of how Falco would like to see kind of the runtime policy interface develop. So for them, it's interacting with the eBPF, but any kind of runtime policy. The discussion quickly zoomed into maybe standardizing, not necessarily how the policies are defined or interface, because that's a broad subject area, right? Lots of different domains, lots of different areas that policy get applied. It's starting to look more like, how can we define a standard result definition? So something that, we could, every tool and every, anyone who wants to ingest that stream of results would have kind of a standardized notation or definition of what that result might look like. But again, it's all very, very early discussion. So that's why we would love to have more and more feedback from anyone interested.
Yeah, it's a really difficult time for me to join, but I am interested. I'll talk to Michael.
So again, at 3 p.m., what time, sorry?
At 3 p.m. Pacific today.
And this will be for those who are interested in security assessments?
Oh, no. So the policy work group is at 3 p.m. today. The assessment discussion is coming December 4th. That's a presentation by Radically Open Security, which is the group that did the Mozilla MOS security reviews, and they have some great articles on their site. So one of their co-founders, or the founder, she was hoping to present December 4th.
So Robert, this is not the security assessments we're doing, right? This is independent kind of audit/review.
Exactly. They're doing audits with Mozilla and of course others. So it's really more a presentation of what they do and then the best practices that they've discovered. Their premise is they're open security reviews. So they don't try to obfuscate what they're doing. They present a lot of their work product. They're not free, so they're not volunteers. They are paid by Mozilla and by other companies that they do work for, as I understand it. So it's really more, they're bringing transparency to the process. So it's not an apples to apples discussion of what I think we should do here, more a presentation of what other groups are doing that are having high impact, and what are some of the lessons we might draw from that experience.
Do you mind posting a link to that stuff?
Oh yeah,
That's one.
Yeah, it's in the Google Doc already, but I'll put it here in the chat as well.
Where's in the Google Doc? I'm trying to.
Let me.
Is it in a previous meeting note? Maybe just repeat it in this one if it is. Okay, I haven't got anything to report this week. Brandon?
Not much. So I've been kind of working on the SIG security intro slides for KubeCon. Other than that, not much. I guess I've been looking a bit at Santiago's work on the supply chain. I think it looks good. Yeah, I think it's pretty much almost ready to merge. I think once we get Sarah's LGTM, we should be good on that.
Okay, cool. Emma?
Yes, you can hear me?
Yep.
Okay, so we just also in the middle of a production crisis called the NSTIC. We don't manage to scale it up. So I thought maybe I can do a quick update overview of the project, and hopefully I can solve the issue and do a more in-depth analysis in another time.
Okay, sure. We've got you on the agenda for later on, but yeah, feel free to.
Sorry, I didn't plan this.
Okay.
Anyway, Camus is a solution for secret encryption on Kubernetes, and it's different from the other solutions because it lets you encrypt a secret for a specific application. So only applications running with a specific service account can decrypt it. And it's using cloud solutions for encryption like AWS KMS or Azure Key Vault. So this is like the high-level overview. And we have more than 400 stars on GitHub, threat modeling, all the different type of security tests, all that. So basically, I do hope we can have a discussion on making it part of the CNCF, especially because we want to take it outside Kubernetes and integrate it with other stuff like SPIFFE, and we need more help with that. So this is like the high level. You want to, like, if you can guide me with questions, it would help.
I mean, do you want to schedule a full presentation, or do you want to do a shorter overview today and a full presentation later, or what works best for you?
I think it will be best to do a short interview because I'm also looking on the incident, and maybe next week I can do the presentation. Hopefully we don't have another incident next week.
Okay, so if we can schedule you for a full presentation next week then, but I mean, we've got an agenda slot today if you want to do a short overview and after we've done the intros. Do you want to do that today?
Yeah, now, like, if you want to guide me, like, I read the document to link on the GitHub issue of all the things that specify there. we actually have most of the things that are there. This is what I said. We have threat modeling already available on the website, which includes also the diagram and all that. And we have security tests. I think this is the part of the stuff that was there. We have
maybe so we got a little slot on the agenda for you. If you could just if we could spend 5 minutes just in after we've done these reviews in about 5 minutes time, maybe we could spend 5 minutes. You could just walk people through the GitHub repo and show us where to find the threat modeling and the pieces that are interesting and maybe just the kind of overall architecture, so people have a little background.
So basically everything is on the body.
But in about 5, could you do that in about 5 minutes when we've just gone through the rest of the intros? Would that work for you rather than now?
Sure. Maybe I could solve the core DNS issue until then. So
okay, look at that. Yeah. So in about 5, if 5 minutes works, or 5 or 10 minutes works for you, that would be perfect.
yeah, sure. I'm here.
Okay, brilliant. Thanks. So Ash, oh no, Justin Kapos.
Yeah, I'm recovering from a really nasty cold, so I probably won't say much. But I've been doing a lot with the tough graduation, and so been working on that, and also trying to get everything ready for KubeCon talks coming up.
Thanks, Santiago.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Awesome. So I've mostly been working on preparing the content for many parts of KubeCon, and I also updated the PR for the supply chain security catalog and resources. I think Brandon spoke about it earlier.
Yeah.
It would be nice to have another pass of reviews. My understanding is that Sarah wanted to have it merged by KubeCon.
Okay, I can take a look at it as well. Yeah, sorry, I haven't yet. Yeah, I'll do that.
Okay, that's about it.
We've already covered Robert. So Christian.
Yes, hi. So yeah, we started to discuss control plane versus data plane policies, in particular in the CNCF space. When people talk about access policies in Kubernetes, it's mostly about RBAC, and that is fundamentally just covering the control plane. And for data plane, it's mostly about networking policies. So we were thinking, are there other policies that are, and how can we express and how can we enforce them? And the one that we are particularly interested in is need to know access to customer data, right? So if you have a service that you run on Kubernetes, how can you make sure that your SREs, your ops people, cannot access the data of the customer, but still have access to a lot of the underlying infrastructure? So yeah, that's what we are looking at. I'm not sure if there is anything in CNCF. I don't think there is. Everything
I'm not aware of anything.
Yeah.
Where are you having this discussion?
At Google. Sorry.
Okay. Right.
So we have solutions like that internally, right? But what do we have? What can we do in terms of Kubernetes and Istio, the other CNCF? I guess Istio is not technically CNCF, but there's kind of the others.
Very much not CNCF.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that is definitely an interesting area. It's definitely something which I've been wondering about recently in terms of what types of solutions people are using in this space, and I'd definitely be interested if anyone else has any experience in this kind of policy.
Yeah, I assume you need something like that to implement GDPR. I don't know the complete specifics because, like I said, some of the stuff we can just rely on existing infrastructure we have at Google. But I think if you are a deployment on Kubernetes and you need to be GDPR compliant, you need some solutions like this.
Or PCI or HIPAA or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Would there be anyone that might want to present at the policy work group? It doesn't have to be today, but at some future day.
I would love, but to go to policy work group, but it's really at an awkward time. Even though I'm in California, it's commute time for me.
Christian, I had, if you don't mind doing a write-up of this problem and posting an issue in SIG security for people to chime in. Yeah.
Like, since you mentioned like Istio, I'm assuming you're using like Istio proxy Envoy, and have you like leveraged that integration with OPA to see if you can use something around that point or for the data plane?
I'm not sure if OPA has the right throughput for the data plane. I think it works well for control plane, but we are concerned about performance on the data plane.
Right, but we can talk about this offline, like not in the stand-up, but I guess performance-wise, it depends on how the policies you write and the data you're writing the policies over. But I think it has pretty good latency requirements, like Netflix uses it for the same purpose. So we can chat about that later if you guys want.
Yeah. So some of the services we talk to don't even consider Envoy to be performant.
Okay.
So and then you pretty much it is.
I think the way I think it's more about definition and describing of the problem more so than even enforcing. Right? I think there is various aspects to this thing in terms of like how could you define something that's consistent and applicable across different infrastructures and different providers.
Yes, exactly. Especially if you're talking about data, right? The data you may have in S3 compatible buckets at various providers, and having a single policy that allows you to express your PCI compliance is really, really tricky. Let me write that out. I have lots of thoughts on that, and then we can have the discussion on the issue and maybe have a dedicated session. I don't want to take over.
Yep. That makes sense. That's why I was suggesting. Okay.
JJ?
Yeah, so just one update. So we are working with TOC. So TOC is trying to be a bit more proactive in trying to set priorities for SIGs, and we are the first SIGs that were chosen to do this. So Sarah, Dan, and I are working with Joan Liz on trying to agree on a priority. So there is iterations going on, but I want to bring that to the team. I just want to give a heads up that by next week, I think we'd be able to bring that prioritization for discussion with the team. Other than that, no other updates. I think Emily is on this call. Emily Ruff or Emily Fox or Amy.
Amy's
here.
Okay.
Okay. So all right.
Yeah.
She'll cover six security day.
We are full. Yeah. We are at capacity.
Yay!
Like cheers all around. Game on. I'll see as many of you there as we can get in.
Yep.
And we're basically just finalizing like last minute details around like how many flip charts do we need anyways and that kind of stuff. So should be good.
Amy, do you mind sending some statistics that we can put into the SIG security intro session?
Yeah. What are you looking for? Just like we had a cloud native day and here's what happened.
Yeah, and kind of maybe some topics and number of attendance and stuff like that.
Drop me an email because I don't know if you all have noticed, but like this big giant event is coming and I'm starting to lose track of how many people. So drop me an email and I will happily get that over to you. Thank you.
All right. Yeah, I definitely will. Thanks.
Much appreciate.
Okay, I think that's all the personal updates, unless I've missed anyone who has got an update. We've already kind of covered policy working group updates, I think. Is there anything from security audit or NIST Big Data?
It's NIST, not NIST Big Data. Hi, it's Mark. The folks at NIST are holding a conference yesterday, today's hackathon thing, whatever that is, on OSCAL. And I wanted to mention it in this group. Maybe I should put an issue out there in that there's the possible use for disclosing across an ecosystem like a supply chain what kinds of controls are being provided at different levels in the supply chain as a way of supporting decision support across the supply chain. So in our case, it's, you know, partners and customers of ours that are not consumers, but who have JSOCs and alerting telemetry of various kinds, but there's no formalism to exchange this kind of information across the decision support systems that we have. So whether OSCAL can do this or not is arguable, but it's something that we might want to think about as sort of a meta-organizational take on this problem. And maybe this is even the wrong group for it, but I thought I'd bring it up anyway.
I actually don't think anyone's ever presented OSCAL to this group. I mean, I've been involved somewhat, but I don't know if anyone else even knows what it's what's going on and what's doing. It might be nice if someone could present an OSCAL update, kind of / intro at some point.
I could do that if there's interest here. If you think it's relevant, it's hard for me to know. This is sort of, it feels like a level of abstraction above the problems we're tackling here, but maybe not.
I think common tooling and interop and things are probably of interest, but I mean, maybe open an issue and see if people are interested. But
I'm also curious, Mark, are you familiar with the software bill of materials push that's being done by MITRE and other industry people?
Yes. So I'm not sure if that's connected to OSCAL, though, is it?
It is explicitly, but now that I'm looking at the schema, I think there could be a lot of duplication. It could be.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah. But yeah, we can discuss that at another time. I could probably reach out to you via email. Are you going to KubeCon?
Sorry, I cut you off.
Oh, sorry. Are you going to be in KubeCon?
Oh, no. No travel budget in this company for the likes of me. Yeah, well, but touching on the interop problem that was just mentioned, I mean, this is such a huge problem. You know, since we don't have OpenC2 or something that the vendors have provided us with, it's really hard to automate the policy-related things across the different tools. So we're going to invest millions of dollars in tools, and then we're stuck with writing Python APIs to get them to be able to ingest alerts from each other. So it's, you know, it's partly a standardization problem, which is why it's relevant to this group. But it seems like nobody's willing to, I don't know, do the detail work to make it happen, or to maybe, you know, agree on common use cases that everybody thinks are important.
Yeah, this looks interesting to me, at least. I'll be taking a look and familiarizing myself.
I think it's definitely worth opening an issue then, and let's and potentially put it on the agenda for a future meeting.
We had a similar discussion internally at Google, and I asked the people to kind of come here and present what they came up with. I'm not sure if they've ever done that. I didn't participate for a couple of weeks, but I can ask them again.
Not that I know of.
Okay. So this is so that we have an automated way of kind of tracking the third-party open source style contributions and make sure that we know who to contact when there's CVEs and things like that. which is similar.
Interesting.
So I'll ask them again.
Okay. Do you want to do a presentation, a quick 5-minute presentation now?
Yeah, actually, we solved the production issue. So,
excellent.
it was
Always
fun.
good.
Yeah, not a good thing when there is no enough space for core DNS and then it goes and everything crashes. Fun. So I can do one of the two things. I can either go over slides I have, or I can go over the repository like you suggested. What do you think would be more beneficial for you?
Not knowing what's in your slides, whatever you think is most beneficial.
Okay, so I start with the slides, and just feel free to stop me and ask questions and all that, or anyone else. Just a second. So I already talked about like the general idea, what it is. Basically, we created Camus because we looked for a good GitOps solution. We worked a lot with GitOps, and we didn't find any good solution that support GitOps and is secure enough. Existing solution like sealed secret, for example, store the encryption keys on the cluster, and we didn't like that. So we tried to create something different, and it's really similar to how Travis works. Basically, you can encrypt a secret for a specific application. We are using service account as the application identity. It's the yearly version. We think to move to SPIFFE at some point, but it's pretty much the same. And then the application can use the token of the service account to authenticate to Camus and decrypt the secret. So basically, the flow from the user side is creating a service account, encrypting the secret for the service account, and then the user can put the encrypted data on Git because it's a GitOps flow. And now on the cluster, the code we have an init container. The init container take the encrypted data and the service account token, send it to the server, and the server return back the encrypted data. And this will work only if the service account is the one the secret was encrypted for. If it's a different service account, the decryption will fail. And this is what makes it so powerful on one hand, on very, very simple on the other hand. It comes from a Hebrew word, which means secret. And I think this is the most important part from security point of view. Camus has a very flattened permission model, which supports the culture where developers do everything. So you don't have any kind of super admin or the need to manage the RBAC. Or the users have the same permissions, or the pods have the same permissions. All you need to configure is the service account. There is no need to mess with anything else. And there is no way to decrypt the value while it's encrypted. Once it's encrypted, so it's removed a huge attack vector. I talked a bit about the security features. The CLI is basically send the secret data to the backend for encryption and get it back encrypted. So the CLI enforces HTTPS. You can opt out of it. And we also added support for certificate pinning. If a client wants, they can easily add certificate pinning. And we use cloud provider encryption, which provide HSM and IP filtering and all those stuff. I talked about the one-way encryption, meaning once the secret is encrypted, there is no easy way to decrypt it back. Only the pod can decrypt it. And we have a lot of security tests, SAST, DAST, secure packages scan, all those stuff. We don't do container scans because I don't feel it's mature enough. But once it will be mature enough, we will also do that. And I talked a bit about the threat model. I want to show that. If you ever saw, someone here is familiar with, sorry. If you're familiar with the OWASP Cloud Security Project, it's looks pretty much the same. We have here all the different threats and the architecture of all the different flows and how things look like. It's all on the website. Different mitigations we have. And on the threats, for example, you can see example threats. And here we have various controls we added to ensure that this threat will be mitigated, and you can also go from the control to the relevant threats and references and all that. And we have a security MD on GitHub for reporting security issues. It basically goes to security to Solo to security team. We have SMIME for the email for encryption. And this is what I wanted to show. The repository is on GitHub. The license is the license requested by CNCF Apache. I think that's it. Any questions or something you would like me to show?
I mean, just to say, I mean, there've been a few other projects with the same kind of aims that then haven't been maintained and things like that. But I know a lot of people do want something like this, so I think it does make sense for there to be a version. You know, if people want to use secrets like this, then it would make sense for there to be a version that people could be comfortable using that had been well audited and so on. So I think that makes a lot of sense to me.
So I actually have a question, Omar, about how like this is great if you have a pipeline and then you're building stuff. For things like ephemeral secrets, what's a good way to use this to, you know, keep generating secrets and being able to deliver them?
So basically for ephemeral secrets or secrets that you generated on runtime, you can do one of two things. Camus is basically an API. So you can either call the API for encrypted secret and then put it somewhere, so your code could read it, or you can generate it on your API, whatever works better for you. As I said earlier, we do plan to widen the use of Camus outside Kubernetes. We just need some help in the designing of how to do it well. I'm more familiar with Kubernetes than other framework. So it's a bit different from your question, but I think it's related to it. Ideally, we could do something with secret generation. I did write an internal tooling for wrapping Active Directory client secrets. So basically, it interact with Azure CLI, create a secret, encrypt it, and then the developer just can take the encrypted secret and put it somewhere. Does that answer your question? Or?
Yeah, I think we have kind of similar issues looking at this, like ephemeral secret stuff. I can like the approach that we're using is we have these the vault secret backends, which we use to generate the credentials, which are ephemeral secrets. So we're kind of like figuring out a way. For us, we just use Vault, and so we want to kind of put something like that on top of Vault. But if there's a way to kind of like use this and then talk to Vault to kind of, you know, bootstrap the secrets, that would be nice as well.
Yeah.
Vault it's something we're still looking at, though. We haven't figured out a good way to do it yet.
Yeah, Vault is a bit different because it's not GitOps. Camus was built for a GitOps solution, so both solutions are valid. It's pretty depend on your company culture.
Right.
Okay, so if there are no other questions, you can stop sharing.
Is anyone using it in production today?
Yeah, we know about a few people who tried it. We have one person who agreed to put their name on our GitHub repositories. We saw a few issues from the communities. I think we can say we have almost 10 issues from the community. We have people asking questions on Stack. So it's not very popular, but it has some traction. I think it's a good candidate for the incubator level in the CNCF. This is where we're aiming for. And we have to gain more traction and you know, make it better, because I'm sure it's not perfect now.
I mean, I think it would definitely make sense for it to have a for SIG security to go through a review process first, so that because this is specifically a security project, and I think it would help support the case if we agree that the threat model is comprehensive and it's doing the right kind of things and so on. So I think I would think that that would be a kind of a useful thing for us to do.
Sure. If there's anything I need to do, I'd be happy to help with.
Sorry, I missed was it a question for me, Cormac?
No, I was just suggesting that it would make sense for us to do an audit on it, because it just seemed to be that it would make sense if security would independently validate the kind of design choices that have been made for this project if they want to present to CNCF.
Makes sense, yeah. I mean, part of the recommendation from TOC, like one of the things as a priorities that we're working through also refers to that. So yes, I do agree. It'll be useful for us. So should we call for volunteers for that, create an issue?
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Yeah, okay. I think that makes sense. I mean, we've got to start. I mean, there's a prioritization question, I guess, about the reviews we're going to do. But let's create an issue and add it to the ones that we're currently considering.
Okay, and whoever creates that issue, please tag Capos, Sarah, and myself at least for follow through on that.
Okay, thanks very much for that. The last item we've got is examples of RBAC done well in real world Kubernetes. Who's issue?
That's not my. It's not my presentation so much as an open-ended query to those. I'm engaged in trying to catalog and kind of put together a sense of a case study around how folks are actually managing RBAC. I don't know, Christian, if this was something that you guys were talking about. So if you have materials that you would be interested in sharing, that might be a great start. But in general, it's just a call out to the community here. If anyone knows of any good resources or case studies of how to do kind of industrial scale RBAC, how they're doing that today, whether it's on a particular cloud like Google's or on-prem Kubernetes, how are they integrating it with their other identity solutions? And I'm happy to, as long as people are sharing open materials, I'm happy to consolidate and represent that back to the group here after my analysis.
I would be interested in helping out with that as well. Not so much in that I have the data, but I would be interested in seeing that data, especially in terms of scale, right? Some of the stuff we see is smaller deployments of RBAC, and I would be interested to learn about larger ones. I think Shopify might be one of them. So if somebody has I could see if I can get a hold of some of their folks.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic.
I was just going to admit, this is Mark. There certainly is a scale problem that I didn't appreciate until we tackled it in the day job here. It's such a problem that, and I'm not a fan of RBAC, but that's where we are with this. And we're having to use machine learning to figure out which of the roles are duplicates and discontinued. This goes beyond the obvious stuff of deleting roles for people who don't work for the business anymore. It's a big problem, entails a lot of manual labor and risk management. It's very poorly integrated with application security. Mostly the app folks are not engaged, if they're even around anymore, yet the roles linger on forever. So there's some multiple of the number of employees in the company, some kind of odd, inscrutable formula that's related to the number of applications and the number of people who've ever touched them and the number of changes in the organization that have happened that result in this permutation of, and we're talking about tens of thousands of roles, not in the hundreds. So it's a big problem. I don't know if it's a cloud native initiative is going to be here to solve it, but it's certainly worth looking at.
So the scalability, just to confirm, is mostly in the number of roles that you have to look at.
Sure, there's roles, and of course, the ones that are based on LDAP and Active Directory have permutations of groups.
Yeah.
So you have multiple memberships in groups, which is sort of a quasi attribute, which has to be analyzed, right? So, yeah. So I think of that as one of the data points that gets multiplied out when you deal with it.
Yeah. Yeah. So you don't have a scalability issue in terms of, policies are getting too large and RBAC is getting too slow for this. This is a purely management overhead scalability.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Well,
I think I don't know the answer to that. It's hard to know where to measure to know what the overhead for that is. It's probably not preventing our web apps from running. But from a security point of view, the reality of managing the tools that are doing the assurance tasks associated with identifying whether this role is allowed to do a particular function on the ops side, that might be just not scalable at all, so we don't do it. There's a parallel specialization, HPA is high privileged access stuff, and I don't know why that's spun off as a separate thing, but I think in most businesses it is, with its own separate tooling.
Yeah, that was the thing I was thinking about, but I was mostly thinking about the enforcement problem. That's why I'm talking data plane policies.
Yeah.
But I think all the instances I know is also separate tooling.
Yeah, it's just odd. Maybe there's a reason. It's the legacy of the admin mentality.
No, I think so. So the instances I've seen is mostly that the business logic to decide if you should get access is just so complex that it's difficult to have a generic enough policy that can handle that in all the places. So it's typically I have business logic that decides if I give you a token, and then the token grants you access. And the token granting access is a relatively straightforward policy,
right.
But the business logic to decide if you should get the token can then be concentrated in one place.
Correct.
At least that is the thing that I have seen in the instances I've looked at.
Right. So the overhead of the token is not the problem. It's the business logic.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but there is overhead, just to go back to the HPA thing briefly, there is overhead in having that tool run in real time to sort of defend against the rogue RBACs that might be out there.
I may not be familiar what HPA does. Do you have a link to that you can post in the...
Yeah, I wonder if there's a good generic thing. Yeah, let me see what I can come up with.
I am curious if anyone has any benchmark or test results for RBAC and Kubernetes at large scale, and whether it's responsive, whether it starts to break down, where the inflection point is. But maybe to your point, everybody's using an external entity for that and just simplifying policy in the Kubernetes side.
Yeah, or they hit other scalability limits in Kubernetes first. Right, I heard, scaling of pods and things like that as being a problem. And typically, if you talk about a cluster, and you have a bunch of service accounts that need to access various namespaces, right? And so the policy doesn't get that complicated. So I would actually be interested in learning more about what your use case is, in case that is not proprietary. 10K roles sounds a lot.
Okay. Well, and part of it is to kind of delineate what best practices are. So if someone's going down the wrong path and then trying to create 10K roles, maybe it's, here's a roadmap for how to avoid that.
Mm-hmm.
If that was aimed at me, that is partly a legacy that the lifecycle management for the roles is not automated. So because it's a manual process, the lifecycle of the applications creates a lot of them that never get archived or merged. So when people move between organizations, you could see that there would be risk in deleting access when person A moves to a different part of the enterprise. So there's that, the automation around that kind of encourages leaving access open. So if I leave working in information security and go to work in the business somewhere doing credit management, say, or fraud detection, they're probably not going to remove my access. So now I've got, more tokens out there, if you like.
Mm-hmm.
Reorganization's another messy one too. Like, okay, let's make fraud have its own organization. Oh, so we need new groups for that. So now you have the old groups that were before the reorg and the ones after it. You could, so they both exist, because who wants to delete them? They might break something, which can happen. Yeah, it's ugly.
I'm just curious, Mark, you mentioned some machine learning stuff you guys are using to do that. Is that open published info, or is that proprietary?
Oh, so that's, I can talk about that. That's at least I can talk about it in a vague way. It's ongoing work with the University of Connecticut at Stores. So we have a couple researchers with some grad students that are working on that problem for us to try to do something rational with the work that we have. So I don't know how interesting it is, because right now it's kind of low-hanging fruit stuff. But if we have some artifacts that get published from this, which the faculty folks there are planning to do, I'll certainly bring it to the group.
Cool, thanks.
You bet.
Okay, well, it sounds like there's some interesting collaborations there potentially between you lot, which would be interesting. So, yeah, please do report back. And if anyone, I mean, do you want to open an issue for people to tell people about how to contribute if they have things that they want to talk about on this?
Yeah, I can consolidate some of this discussion into an issue, and then we can kind of carry it forward from there. And then I'll bubble it up as well at the policy work group level. So we'll get hopefully a broader audience, and yeah, I'll create an issue to try.
Cool. As that's the end of things we've got on our agenda, and we have 10 minutes. So unless anyone has anything else they want to raise, I think we're probably done.
Yeah, I just want to ask if I'm not sure. I feel like I don't think we have anything lined up for next week, right? So if anyone wants to talk about something, I guess just put it in the document. Although I'm assuming everyone's going to be busy preparing for KubeCon.
Panicking, I think it's called.
I wonder if maybe the meeting is just a preview of what everyone is planning to present at KubeCon, even if they don't go into it, just like a list of what topics people are presenting. Or not.
Yeah.
We could certainly, people could do that in the intros. We do. Talk about things. Are we having a kind of meeting after SIG Security Day? There was some discussion at one point about having an evening thing on Monday. Is anything?
So I don't think there was any decision made on that, but I'd be open to it. If the thing is, like, I don't have. If anyone's volunteering to organize, I'd be happy to join in. And from
So I can probably just create an issue and then we can figure it out from there. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, sounds good. Okay, thanks very much, everyone.
Okay.
Cheers.
This is productive. Thanks, Justin.
Thank you.
Thanks everyone. Bye.